Welcome back to Rising. Niall, what's in your notes today?
Well, today, Robbie, we're into the second week of the war on Iran, and it's not going well. The public disapproves. The things the administration says keep shifting, and oil prices are soaring. Now, of course, the picture will change over time. No serious person doubts that the aggregate military might of the United States and Israel is far greater than that of Iran. The theocratic regime in Tehran might well be toppled, and I won't be shedding any tears over that. But there are a huge number of questions, and today there's a specific and disturbing one. Just who blew up a girls' school in southern Iran 9 days ago, killing scores of children? The Trump administration seems strangely unsure. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio 1 week ago today.
I've seen those reports. I would refer you, not because I'm not trying to answer your question, but I don't want to get it wrong. The Department of War would be investigating that if that was our strike, and I would refer your question to them, and I'll make sure they're aware that you have that question. But we'd like to know.
And here's the Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War if you prefer, Pete Hegseth, with Tom Bateman of the BBC last Wednesday.
Can you give us an update on what the administration knows, what you know now about the reported strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on Saturday?
All I can say is that we're investigating that. We, of course, never target civilian targets, but we're taking a look and investigating that. Red tie in front.
Just on the basis that with the information you would have, your reconnaissance abilities, ability to gather information, I mean, it's several days on now. So is there any clarity on whose munition this was?
We're investigating it.
Later that day, it was Caroline Leavitt's turn. The White House press secretary's questioner here is Sean McCreish of the New York Times.
Hey, did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter, and I would just tell you very strongly the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime.
And finally, back to Mr. Hegseth again. Here he is on CBS's 60 Minutes last night with Major Garrett.
If you could tell the American public it definitively was not us, you would tell us, wouldn't you?
I would say that it's being investigated, which is the only answer I'm prepared to give.
Fortunately for those of us in the public, it's not the only answer available. Several major media organizations have conducted careful investigations, and every one of them has found that the most likely explanation is the most obvious one, that the United States hit the school and killed the children. Reuters was first to report this, stating, quote, US military investigators believe it is likely that US forces were responsible. To be fair, the news agency at that time noted that those investigators had not reached a final conclusion. Soon after came the Associated Press, which said the explosion was, quote, likely caused by US airstrikes. The AP said it based that assessment on, quote, satellite images, expert analysis, a US official, and public information released by the US and Israeli militaries. Separate investigations by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and CNN all came to basically the same conclusion, that the most likely culprit is the United States. If that's true, how did it happen? Well, we don't know exactly. But the most plausible common sense explanation is bad targeting. The school was very close to, but separate from, an Iranian Revolutionary Guards base. Here's more on that from CNN's Caitlin Collins.
Our analysis, which is based on satellite imagery, geolocated videos, and the assessment of munitions experts, suggests that this school was hit around the same time that an attack that American forces had launched on a neighboring Iranian naval base. This new satellite image shows several Revolutionary Guard buildings near the all-girls school. You can see how close they are. In red, you can see the craters at the center of the structures, including the school, and what experts say look like precision strikes.
Now, I mentioned just moments ago that members of the Trump administration seem oddly hesitant about saying who was responsible. But there's one exception to that, of course. Here's Trump on board Air Force One on Saturday.
Mr. President, did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still
But
investigating.
the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done by Iran.
Can you give us an
Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
No evidence, none, has been produced publicly to support that idea. And I'm sure you noticed that even Hegseth didn't immediately endorse it. The theory that the strike came from an errant Iranian missile simply doesn't stand up, at least based on what we know so far. The images that have so far circulated on social media purporting to support this thesis have been debunked. One actually came from a city hundreds of miles away. But there is a new video showing something else, something vital. It appears to show a Tomahawk missile striking the base adjacent to the school. Iran doesn't have Tomahawks. Israel doesn't use them either, but America does. Look, can we say with 100% certainty that America hit the school? No, not quite 100%, and not yet. But is that explanation, based on what we know now, vastly more likely than any other alternative? Yes, obviously and undeniably so. So now we can expect the president's most ardent defenders to pivot, to minimize what happened, to cry, why does it matter, and to cite the Iranian theocracy's many cruelties. But it does matter. It matters strategically, with the United States claiming its enemy is the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people. It matters morally, because the United States shouldn't be bombing children to smithereens. And it matters ethically and perhaps legally, because if that's in fact what happened, people need to be held to account, regardless of whether their actions were mistaken or malevolent. Accountability. This administration hates that, at home or abroad. And isn't that the most likely reason why 9 days after a missile hit a school, Pete Hegseth just can't figure out who fired it? Please, let's get real, even when the reality looks so bleak.
Well, I don't really have much to quibble with. I agree, based on the investigating of it that I've done, that it seems quite likely that it was our side that did that. If you want to argue that that's not the case, you have to show some compelling evidence the other way, and you really can't. The idea that it was Iran seems ludicrous, frankly. I don't think it was targeted on purpose. I think CNN has a quite good rundown of how it's near buildings that would have been legitimate military targets, and they targeted that one by mistake. It's a horrific mistake that resulted in the deaths of a just huge number of children. And you know, we've got to. You can certainly, of course, in the course of even a justified military action, even something we voted on and said we wanted to do because it's better for world safety to overthrow this regime, there are going to be casualties of innocent people, and that's lamentable. But it is a fact of justified wars. It can't be the case that no civilian life loss is the standard, or else we can never defend ourselves. But there's a big gulf between that and this amount of civilian death. This will, especially if we're expecting the Iranians to rise up and install forces that are sympathetic to America and the West. Well, then it does matter how we do this, frankly, because this kind of thing creates anti-American sentiment. And it was needless, and it was a mistake. It sounds like they know it was needless and a mistake. And so there should absolutely be accountability for whoever, put the crosshairs over that building instead of that one. That is a sloppiness that got lots of people killed and is embarrassing to America and is contrary to our national security interests. So, yeah, no disagreement at all. Very bad, must be condemned. The administration knows it was us and needs to come out and take whatever steps are appropriate to discipline the person who screwed up.
Yeah, the point that you raised, I think, about the United States hoping to, in some fashion, create a more America-friendly government in Iran, I think is particularly important when stuff like this happens. I mean, you've just killed lots and lots of girls mostly between the ages of 7 and 12. That's catastrophic morally, but it's also catastrophic for the reason you mentioned. And then just, Trump coming out, providing no supporting evidence at all and saying, oh, well, it was Iran. I mean, that really, I think, cheapens everything, including the office. I mean,
this isn't even a case where, in the course of prosecuting the war on Gaza, Israel will say, well, these are all military targets because Hamas is embedded within the civilian population and they're under buildings and they're using hospitals as staging ground. This isn't even any of that. This was just a school. No one is making the claim that it was a legitimate military target or if it's crossed the line into military legitimate target. They're just not saying anything because they knew it was the wrong building to blow up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, very bad. Next up, Texas State Representative James Tallarico reportedly chose to do his interview with Stephen Colbert despite knowing it would not make it to the airwaves. A little calculated plan that I think did pan out. Stay with us.